Content warning for transphobia, transmisogyny, and TERFs.
Hi, my name is Lavender. My pronouns are they, them. I'm going to be talking about Dave Chappelle getting canceled for his transphobia. I just wanted to, give my opinion on this, because I'm trans. So Dave Chappelle is a cishet black comedian, and he has a new Netflix show called The Closer, and he got called out because he spent half of the show making jokes about LGBT people, specifically trans people. I don't know why I said it like that. Specifically trans people. And there's just a whole hullabaloo of nonsense all over the place. And a lot of conservatives on Twitter are, they're throwing a little bit of a fit about it and cancel culture and, this militant trans community that, I don't know, does bad shit. Yeah, so I'm just going to talk about the jokes that he made and why they're bad and why they're not just jokes, because that's what a lot of people are saying. You can't make jokes anymore, because it's not about jokes, it's about the beliefs behind those jokes. One of the main jokes that he made was that he is a TERF, and that, he stands with J.K. Rowling or whatever.
Hey, this is me editing. I just wanted to say that in this video I called TERFs a hate group a couple times, and they're not. I just didn't know what else to call them, because they don't actually, physically hurt anyone for the most part, as far as I know. They just kind of, legally try to take away people's rights and are just generally spreading misinformation and hatred. So, anyway, they're not a hate group.
The reason that I think he doesn't know what he's talking about is because he said that all she did was say that gender is real, that, gender is biological or whatever, which I don't agree with, but, that by itself, I can see how just that he would think isn't harmful. J.K. Rowling is a blatant, actively harmful, out to get the trans community for some reason. I do not know what's wrong with her, but, she has done some serious bad shit. TERFs are very, very bad. I will find what he said. He kind of started his thing about the trans community by saying that he's, afraid of trans people because they, cancel everyone and they're so fucking sensitive or whatever. Here's a quote from his show. And they have canceled people, they being the trans community. They've canceled people more powerful than me. They canceled J.K. Rowling. I just want to say, whenever people talk about cancel culture, I don't think it's real, because, Dave Chappelle has been called out a bunch of times for his shit. He's been canceled a bunch of times. He still has a fucking Netflix show. J.K. Rowling has not lost her career. She is a millionaire. She's still making books. She still has a huge following. She created an entire community of TERFs. She's not canceled. She's not gone. She is still on her bullshit. She is still being an asshole, even though she's been called out over and over and over again. And then he said, they canceled her because she said in an interview, and this is not exactly what she said, but essentially she said that gender was a fact. And then the trans community got mad as shit. They started calling her a TERF. I didn't even know what the fuck that was, but I know that trans people make up words to win arguments. Laughter. So I looked it up. TERF is an acronym. It stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. This is a real thing. This is a group of women that hate transgender. They don't hate transgender women, but they do. They do hate trans women, but they look at trans women the way we blacks might look at blackface. It offends them. Oh, this bitch is doing an impression of me. Laughter. Now, I shouldn't speak on this because I'm not a woman, nor am I trans, but as we've established, I am a feminist. Laughter. That's right. Applause. I'm Team TERF. I agree, man. Gender is a fact. You have to look at it from a woman's perspective. Look at this, look at it like this. Caitlyn Jenner, whom I've met, wonderful person, Caitlyn Jenner was voted Woman of the Year. Her first year as a woman. Ain't that something? Okay, I'm just gonna back up. I understand that he doesn't know what a turf is. He very clearly does not understand what a turf is. He does not know what J.K. Rowling has done. And his ideas and his jokes about trans people are literally from like 2015. Like, he clearly doesn't really know what he's talking about. This is banana, by the way. I don't think that he hates trans people. I don't think that he's doing any of this maliciously. I don't think he's saying these jokes to be mean. I don't think he knows that what he's doing is harmful. And that's why I'm even talking about this, because if he was just some blatant transphobe, I would just be, like, pissed off about it and be like, get the fuck out of, like, I don't want to talk about this. But the reason people are angry is because you're going on stage, you're going on Netflix for thousands of people to see, and you're saying that you are Team TERF. You're oversimplifying what it is and acting like it's not harmful at all and trans people are just being dramatic. Whenever it is essentially a hate group, it is a transphobic hate group that wants to take away trans people's rights, that fucking hates trans women for no reason, that thinks they're fucking predators and whatever else. And whenever you go on stage and you say that you're Team TERF, you are making people think that it's not a bad thing. So whenever they see TERFs online, they might be more willing to listen to the things that they have to say. You might say, like, you know, saying gender is a fact, you know, how is that bad? You know, it is. I don't think that gender is really biological, that's a whole other thing, but the main thing is that people use gender is a fact to completely discredit trans people. If gender is a fact, and if being trans is equivalent to blackface, like an offensive caricature, like just pretending to be something, basically, like infiltrating women's spaces or whatever, do you see how that can be harmful? Because this very basic trans 101, but like, trans people are the gender that they say they are. Like, that's it. We're not pretending, we're not in spaces that we're not welcome in. Trans women are literally women. They are just as much women as cis women are. Because if you say that trans women aren't women, then you're saying they shouldn't be in women's spaces. They shouldn't be called women. They shouldn't have rights. Like, that's where this conversation goes. You should not be going on stage in front of tens of thousands of people and saying that you agree with bigotry. It doesn't really matter what his intentions were because the effect is the same. You know, people now are going to hear these transphobic jokes and these transphobic ideas and know about this transphobic hate group, and they're going to think that that's okay. A lot of his other jokes are just kind of making fun of the way trans people look, saying that trans women have masculine features, making fun of gay people for being gender nonconforming. And it's not funny. Like, it's not funny when that's the kind of shit that people say when they're, like, targeting people on the streets to, like, harass them or beat them up or kill them. Like, with a lot of trans people. This next part I'm not going to talk about super in depth because it's about being black and I'm not black. But he basically compared being LGBT and our, like, rights and the progress that we've made with getting rights and shit to being black. It's kind of like, I understand what he's saying and it's fair. Like, the stuff that he said about, like, racism in the gay community and, like, appropriation of black culture in the gay community is, like, absolutely an issue. But some of the other stuff, like, kind of implying that we got rights too fast is, like, I don't know. It's just kind of weird. It's a weird thing to say, I think. Okay, I wanted to read this part about his trans friend, because a lot of conservatives on Twitter were kind of using this as, one, a reason that he's not transphobic, and two, a reason that, like, the trans community is just being dramatic and, like, this one trans person's okay with his jokes, so, like, what are you guys talking about? Like, trans people can't disagree with each other. So he said, okay, so he did, like, a stand-up show with a trans woman comedian. And then the show became something cooler than a show. It became like a conversation between a black man and a white trans woman, and we started getting to the bottom of shit. All of them questions that you think about that you'd be afraid to ask. I was just asking them and she was answering them, and her answers were funny as shit. The crowd was falling out of their chairs, and at the end of the show I go, "Well, Daphne," I said, "well, that was fun." I go, "I love you to death, but I have no fucking idea what you're talking about." The whole crowd laughed except for Daphne. Man, she looks at me like I'm not her friend anymore. Like I'm something bigger than me. Like I'm the whole world and a guy. Then she said, "I don't need you to understand me." I said, "What?" She said, "I just need you to believe," just like that, she goes, "that I'm having a human experience." And when she said it, the whole crowd kind of gasped. And I gave the Fight Club look. I said, "I believe you, bitch." Because she didn't say anything about pronouns. She didn't say anything about me being in trouble. She said, "Just believe I'm a person and I'm going through it." I know I believe you because it takes one to know one. So, I don't know, like, the parts with his trans friend are really sweet. I think that it's really cool that, he gave a platform to a trans woman. He gave her an opportunity. I think it's cool that he genders her correctly. I think it's cool that he thinks she's cool and that he respects her and that he really cares about and loves her. And that's also part of the reason why I think that he's not an asshole. But at the same time, you can be not an asshole and you can still make transphobic jokes. You can still say transphobic things. You can still have transphobic beliefs. You can be all of that and still have a trans friend and still love a trans person. It's just like, I don't know, like this idea that all trans people have to be super chill and like okay with any jokes that you make and like not say anything about pronouns or not get upset with you about anything. Like, trans people are allowed to get upset. Trans people are allowed to get upset, and if you want to be a good friend to trans people, you have to be willing to take criticism and willing to learn and willing to, you have to try to understand. I just think that part where he says, she looked at me like I'm not her friend anymore, like I'm something bigger than me, like I'm the whole world and a guy. I thought that was really powerful because that's how it can feel sometimes. Like, as trans people, we're such a, like, new thing to people. Like, it's only been in the past, like, 5 or 6 years that people are really starting to understand trans people more, that we're being, like, on TV and stuff. I don't know, like, we can feel really alone. And when we find someone that's willing to listen to us and we talk to them about shit, and for, you know, at the end of that, for them to say, I don't know what you're fucking talking about. Like, yeah, that could really hurt. I'm gonna read the last part that he said. Throughout this whole thing, he was kind of making jokes about how trans people were saying that he was punching down on them, and he didn't really understand what that meant. It means that as a cis person with a huge platform, you're, you know, using trans people as the butt of a bunch of jokes without really considering the effects that those jokes could have on people in the fucking world. That's what that means. But he said, this was like at the very end of the show, he said, I'm not telling another joke about you, which is like trans people, maybe the whole LGBT community. I'm not telling another joke about you until we are both sure that we are laughing together. I'm telling you this is done. I'm done talking about it. All I ask from your community, with all humility, is will you please stop punching down on my people? So by that, I think that he means, like, the racism in the LGBT community he was talking about and the appropriation, which, that's what I'm saying too, Dave Chappelle. Like, can you stop making transphobic jokes? And, like, come on, man. Like, he's so fucking close to the point. Like, you are punching down on the trans community. There are people in the LGBT community punching down on black people and other black other black LGBT people. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, we need to have solidarity. It's not, you know, why do gay people have rights and black people don't? It's like, we all need to have rights, Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle. Like, that's what I'm saying. We need solidarity. We need understanding. And if you want to be understanding, you have to try to understand. You have to take criticism. You have to listen to trans people and all of our complaining. I think we have a right to complain. I think every fucking marginalized person has a right to complain because our society's fucking annoying. It's annoying. Like, it's frustrating because we've heard these jokes over and fucking over. We've heard over and over again, you know, being trans is like blackface, and like, you know, Caitlyn Jenner got to be the woman of the year when she was only a woman for a year. Like, we've heard that so many times. So many times. And, like, we're pissed off. We're pissed off, Dave. You know, you talked about in this whole thing about, you know, being annoyed by people and calling people bitches and being sick of their shit. We're sick too, Dave. We're sick of your shit. I don't know. He said about the Netflix workers striking that they should have just talked to him, which I'm not sure, like, how he expected that to go down. But I'm hoping that he does talk to them, and I'm hoping that he is willing to talk to them. Not willing to talk to them, but willing to listen to them and to make changes in his jokes and to actually do what he says that he wants to do and let LGBT people... Why can't I say that? And let LGBT people laugh with him instead of being laughed at. So I had a part where I wanted to say my ideas for him and how he can do better. Because I really do think he's willing to do better. Dave! Dave, my best friend Dave, can you please? So here's what he can do better. He should work with more trans comedians. He should hire sensitivity writers who are funny and can teach him about the things that he wants to make jokes about. He should work with black LGBT people. He talks in this whole thing about how annoying white LGBT people are, and he's fucking right. Start talking to black people. Start talking to black people. I don't know why I'm fucking yelling. But he should work with black gay people. He should work with black trans people. If he's annoyed by white LGBT people, if he's annoyed by white queer people, he should work with black LGBT comedians. Like, if he genuinely wants to make some funny ass jokes, if he really wants to have trans friends and like make funny jokes and make some like good political commentary, some good political jokes that are about marginalized people that he can make as a black man, that he can make that's criticizing racism and white people and culture without punching down on trans people and gay people. That would be fantastic. That would be wonderful. That would be great. Especially whenever he's already, had all these fucking conservatives talking about his shit. Because I don't think that's what he wants. I hope that's not what he wants. I don't think that he should stoop down to, like, being anti-PC culture and, like, whatever the fuck. Because he could say some really, like, important things. He could get some really important perspectives as a black man. Or as someone who has a genuine connection and community with other marginalized black people. He could uplift the voices of black women, of black gay people, of black trans people, of black bi people, of black LGBTP people. LGBT, I keep saying LGBT. But yeah, work with black queer people. Continue improving and learning. Share what you learn with other people. Create a space for all comedians and all people who watch comedy. Be more than just not transphobic. Actively work to be that. To be an ally. Make fun of transphobes. Why are you making fun of trans people? Do you really think that we don't get enough of that? That this isn't the norm? But really though, like, if he wants to make jokes about being marginalized, make jokes about bigots. Make jokes about goofy conservatives. Like, make a safe space. Make a safe space for marginalized people that you're saying that you care about. And then for other people, what they can do to do better is be conscious of the ideas behind the content that you're watching and the jokes that you're laughing at and making, and educate yourself on trans issues and other issues that you don't know a lot about. And just work to be a better person. And it doesn't mean, being a fucking ho-hum, like, big old grump ball that's just, like, complaining about shit and, like, being annoyed and whatever. Like, this is part of what I want to do in activism is, like, I don't want shit to be all about the negative and, like, what people are doing wrong and, like, I don't know, like, very depressing shit. Like, I want hope. I want there to be hope for comedy. I want there to be hope for comedy and community, and I want to make the world a better place. And that's why I am going to be the next Dave Chappelle. My name is going to be Lavender Chappelle, and I'm going to make funny trans jokes. But yeah, that was, like, all over the place. I'm gonna leave links to the transcript of his shit in the description. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and give me $1 million, and stop making transphobic jokes. Thanks, bye.
Dave Chappelle, you put me under your spell. You made mean queer jokes, and they didn't go so well. Dave Chappelle, you make me wanna scream and